Hello everyone and welcome to the first chapter of our Queen's Gambit Declined course. As we said in the introduction, Queen's Gambit Declined is an extremely popular opening and it was played by almost all world champions, so it has a very good and solid reputation for black. In today's chapter we are going to focus on the main line, which arises after the moves d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, bishop e7, bishop g5, h6, attacking the bishop, and after this move white plays bishop h4, keeping the bishop on this d8, h4 diagonal. So this position is one of the main lines of the Queen's Gambit Declined, and this particular position was played by many world champions, as we said, in particular by the classical giants, which are Lasker, Capablanca, Alechin. Later it was employed by Karpov and Kasparov, and lately Magnus Carlsen is the one who is leading play of this position for black. So after bishop h4, here black has many options. The main one is, of course, to castle or to play knight bd7. But in this course we are going to focus on d takes c4 out of all these moves. You might wonder why this relatively rare move, so to say, compared to the other ones. However, it seems to me that this move is quite practical for most of the players, as it is offering clear-cut plans for black, and also it doesn't require too much opening knowledge, so it is relatively easy to employ, I would say. After d takes c4, the main move for white is e3, and this is the only serious try for white for an advantage. But first, let's take a look at some less popular moves. Queen a4 is such a move. White wants to regain the pawn on c4 immediately. However, as we will see, this plan has a lot of flaws, since the queen will be quite vulnerable and exposed on c4, and this will give black couple of tempis to develop his queenside counterplay. So let's take a look how that happens. After queen a4, black simply develops the knight to d7. Queen takes on c4, and now black plays a6. So the idea is to expand on the queen side with b5, and by playing this move, black will gain the tempo by attacking white's queen. White plays e3, and now black can choose between two equally good options. The first one to immediately castle, and then only then to play b5. The other one is to play b5. Let's take a look at that one first. And now the only principal move for white is to play queen c6, stopping the c5 advance. If he plays something like queen b3, then after c5, bishop e2, bishop b7, short castle, rook c8, black has solved all its problems and may even claim a slight advantage in this position. So queen b3 is a timid move, but after queen c6 as well, black achieves a comfortable play. He plays rook a7, preparing bishop b7, bishop takes on f6, bishop takes on f6, knight e4, bishop e7, and after bishop d3, bishop b7, queen c2, short castle. Now black plays queen a8, and I would like to draw your attention to this motive, which is quite instructive. So once black has deployed its rook to a7, he can develop his queen in such a manner that together with the bishop on b7, it influences this long diagonal. After queen a8, everything is ready for black to play rook c8 and c5, after which he will have great counterplay, since he has two powerful bishops. So somehow white has to stop that. He can try to play a3 and b4. As we said, after something like rook a c1, rook c8, with the next c5, black has an excellent play. So, but after a3, black can simply play f5, kicking the knight from e4 square, and after knight g3, here it is even better for for black to not pay attention to a possible gain of the pawn, but just to play c5, excellent move, and after d takes c5, knight takes c5. Take a look how all his pieces are excellently placed. Instead of c5, bishop takes f3 is greedy, because after g takes f3, queen takes f3, a4 for example, white can claim some compensation, since this pawn on e6 is weak, and in particular the whole complex of white squares in black's camp may be subject to attack. So bishop takes f3 is not to be recommended. Instead of that, as we said, c5 is the move. Also, after something like a knight from e to d2, black can play c5 as well, and also claim excellent position. So that was the b5 move. As we said, immediate. Instead of it, black can also play b5, short castle, and only after something like bishop e2, play b5, and now once again queen c6. As we said, queen d3, bishop b7, short castle, c5 is quite comfortable for black. So queen c6, rook a7 once again, knight e4, knight takes on e4, queen takes on e4, bishop b7, bishop takes on e7, queen takes on e7, queen c2, and now c5. So a general rule of thumb is that once in these positions black manages to actively develop this light squared bishop and also carry out a c5 push, in most of the cases he equalizes the position completely. I should just note that after short castle, white cannot really stop the b5 plan, because after b5, excellent move nonetheless, white is unable to capture the pawn, since after a takes b5, this would be a great blunder for white. A takes b5, the queen is under attack, and if white captures this pawn, then black will simply take on a1 and achieve winning position. So after b5, white would need to play something like queen b3, but now after b4, knight b1, bishop b7, black has developed all his pieces. He's ready to play c5, while white is significantly lagging in his development. And one more move before we go back. One more note before we go to the analysis of the e3 move. As we said, e4 is not a good move. In fact, it's a blunder, since black can simply take on e4, excellent move. And now, no matter what white plays, for example, knight takes e4, or bishop takes e4, knight takes on c3, bishop takes on d8, knight takes on d1, and after bishop takes c7, knight takes on b2, black will this will lead to a position where black has at least pawn up, and the same goes the same applies to knight takes on e4. Black simply takes on h4, and after bishop takes c4, he goes back to e7, and he can claim an advantage in this position. Now we are going to take a look at the main line, which is e3. After e3, black plays c5. As we said, this is part of his plan to strike the center, to challenge white's control of the center. And here white can play two moves. bishop takes c4 is the main one, but also d takes c5 is also a move that needs to be studied. This leads to an endgame. After queen takes d1, rook takes d1, and now black plays knight from b to d7. The idea is obvious, to capture on c5 with the knight. Here in this position, white has plenty of options. Let's take a look first at the move c6. The idea of this move is quite clear. This pawn on c5 is bound to fall no matter what white does, so at least he's trying to worsen black structure. However, in return for this slight weakening of his pawn structure, white will gain excellent control of the d5 square, and also the b file will be open for his rook. So after b takes c6, bishop takes c4, white plays knight d5. So this is an important motive, as we will see throughout this course. The idea is to swap these dark squared bishops, since after knight takes on e7, bishop takes on e7, king takes on e7, black has relieved some pressure on his position. As we know, one of the principles in chess is that when you have less space, you should tend to exchange some minor pieces, because it will be much more easier for you to develop the remaining position. Although this is not always true, but in most of the cases it's a useful rule to follow. And after king takes e7, his king is also very nicely placed in this endgame. And after something like rook c1, knight from 5 to b6, bishop e2, c5, short castle, bishop b7, rook from f to d1. Black can even play something like g5, so the idea is to expand on the king side. And after h3, now with a5, he can consider placing his rooks to d8 and to b8, and prepare even something like f5 to further expand on the king side. Although his pawn on c5 might be considered a slight weakness, all his pieces are placed very harmoniously, so he has enough counterplay for this slight defect of his pawn structure. Instead of rook c1, white can also try to play knight e4, but after bishop b7, rook c1, or short castle c5, bishop e2, a5, with a similar position as in the previous note. So rook c1, c5. In this position, white doesn't really have anything better than to play something like bishop takes d5, but this leads to equal position after bishop takes d5, knight takes c5, rook from h to c8, pinning the knight, knight d3, and now black simply recaptures the pawn on a2 and claims full equality. So that was the move c6. We saw that it's not a problematic move. The next move we are going to consider here is knight b5. This move may look dangerous at first point, since white is threatening to play knight c7 and perhaps something like bishop g3. So bishop g3 and having some influence on this diagonal. However, it turns out not to be dangerous at all. Black can simply castle, and now white has a couple of moves, but none of it is really dangerous. If he plays knight c7, this may look like a tempting move, but it's ultimately a mistake, enabling black to seize an advantage. After rook b8, bishop g3, black has knight e4, good move, and he's attempting to neutralize this strong bishop on g3, after which white's previous play will be quite pointless. So white may try to keep this to at least get his pawn to d6 to be strong, but after bishop takes d6, c takes d6, b5, in these positions it turns out that this pawn on d6 is going nowhere. Black managed to protect this pawn on c4, and in the future this pawn on d6 may even fall. So after knight d4, a6, knight c6, rook b6, knight e7, king h8, in this position black is already better, and I will stop the analysis here. The interested, just to save us some time, the interested viewers can take a look at the remaining analysis in the PGN. So that was knight c7 move. Instead of it, white can try to first put the bishop on g3, but here black simply plays a6, attacking the knight, and after knight d6, now knight c7 is not dangerous at all, since the rook can be placed to a7, and something like bishop d6 is not dangerous. Once again, after bishop takes d6, c takes d6, b5, we have a similar scenario as in the previous note. The pawn on d6 is more of a weakness than it's a strength, and black has a very compact pawn formation on the queen side, which is greatly reduce this bishop on f1, and he can claim an advantage in this position. So after a6, knight d6 is slightly better, but after knight takes c5, it turns out that this knight b5 jump didn't lead to anything concrete for white, except that he lost precious time for development of his pieces. So that was bishop g3, and the last move we are going to analyze is bishop takes c4, which is probably the best, but after something like knight c5, this whole variation would acknowledge that knight b5 jump was simply a waste of time. So that was knight b5. As we saw, it's not something that should be feared of. And now we're going to analyze the main move in this position, which is bishop takes c4, a normal developing move. And now after knight takes c5, here white has plenty of options, but as we will see, black should be able to neutralize white's initiative in all of them. Let's start with the less challenging moves. After knight e5, black can simply exchange the knights and the bishops as well. As we said before, exchanges usually tend to favor the side that's under pressure, so we are using that very principle in this position. White, on the contrary, tries to keep at least his active dark squared bishop. If he takes on e7, after king takes on e7, knight takes on d7, bishop takes on d7, in this position black is very comfortable, since his king is excellently placed on e7 and placed for the ensuing endgame. So bishop g3 is slightly more challenging, but after bishop f6, black is challenging white's knight on e5, and now white can try several moves. For example, bishop b5, pinning the knight on d7, but black simply continues with a6. White is unable to keep this pin, so he has to take on d7, knight takes on d7, and after something like knight c4, black plays b5, knight d6, king e7, and after short castle, he can even take on c3, b takes c3, and now after knight b6, the position is equal. We have the opposite colored bishops on the board, and he can at some point play f6 and e5, trying to shut this bishop on g3 from the play. Also, he can other plan is to simply play rook d8 and after knight c4 to exchange these knights, leading to a equal position. So that was bishop b5. Instead of it, white can also try knight b5, but this may look like active move, but in fact it's a blunder of peace, since after bishop takes e5, the bishop is covering the c7 square, so this forces white to capture on e5, but then again after knight takes e5, knight c7 check, king e7, the bishop on c4 is hanging, and black will emerge with too much material for the rook. So that means that knight b5 is not an option. Instead of it, the last move we are going to consider in this position is the move f4. So white is trying to support this knight on e5, but after knight takes e5, f takes e5, bishop e7, he has slightly compromised his pawn structure. Now he has doubled the e-pawns, and the pawn on e3 may become weak at some point. And after short castle, rook d4, a6, in this position white does have some space advantage and some activity. However, black should be able to gradually neutralize it without difficulty. For example, after b4, knight d7, the pawn on b4 is hanging, so white has to play something like bishop e2. And now, after bishop g5, attacking the pawn on e3, bishop f4, black has a nice tactical trick. Knight takes e5, excellent move, and after bishop takes e5, bishop takes on e3 check, king h1, bishop takes on d4, bishop takes on d4, rook d8. Here we have a dynamically balanced position. Black has a rook and two pawns for two pieces. Since his rooks will be nicely placed on the open lines on D and C files, he has enough material and counterplay to claim a balanced position. So that would be all for these three options in this position. So that was knight e5 move, as we said. After it we play knight fd7, exchanging the knights. The next move we are going to analyze is bishop b5, giving the check, but after bishop d7, as we said, this initiates a very convenient exchange for the black. So white is exchanging his active light square bishop for the passive on c8, which means that after king e2, or bishop takes d7, knight takes on to d7, bishop takes on e7, king takes e7 with equality. So king e2, bishop takes b5 check, knight takes on b5, short castle, rook d2, g5, bishop g3, a knight from f to e4, rook c2, and now after something like rook d8, black is completely equal. So bishop b5 check cannot be a critical variation. Short castle is also an option for white, but after a6, taking away this knight, taking away a b5 square from white's knight, bishop e2. If white plays something like a4, black just simply continues with his development with bishop d7, attacking also this pawn on a4. So bishop e2, and now after something like g5, bishop g3, b5, knight e5, bishop b7, black has expanded on both sides of the board, and he has very actively placed pieces. He can, on the next moves, he can deploy his rook to c8, let's say, and perhaps jump to e4 with one of his knights. So those were all options for white. However, bishop e2 seems to be the best move. And now after g5, attacking the bishop on h4, bishop g3. Here, white, instead of bishop g3, white can also jump immediately to b5. So let's take a look at that option. After short castle, knight c7, rook b8, bishop g3, and now black simply plays bishop d7, and it turns out that this knight on c7 and bishop on g3 really cannot do anything to black's position. After knight b5, something like knight b5, black can simply play bishop takes b5, bishop takes b5, and after rook from b to d8, his knights are very active, so he can easily jump to e4, and white's bishop pair advantage is of no use in this position. So knight b5 is not a problem. If he jump with a knight to e5, once again after rook from b to c8, knight takes on d7, a knight from c takes to d7, short castle, a6. This knight on c7 is basically trapped on c7, so white has to be very careful in this position. After bishop f3, knight c5, h3. If he plays b4, this is not a good move, because after knight from c to e4, this bishop on f3 is shut, so to say. It cannot attack the pawn on b7, and black is already threatening to win the piece with knight g3. So after knight c5, h3, once again black jumps to e4, bishop e5, and after rook from f to d8, black is completely fine in this position. So knight b5 is nothing to worry about. That's why white plays bishop g3, and here black immediately jumps to e4. The idea is, of course, to eliminate this strong bishop on g3. And here white has several options. Let's take a look at them. First, he can exchange the knights with knight takes on e4, knight takes on e4, bishop b5 check, king f8. And now, although black has lost his castling rights, the king will be very nicely placed on g7, so that's not very problematic from him. And now, after something like king e2, knight takes on g3 check, h takes on g3, king g7, he can be very optimistic about the future, since his bishop pair may become very powerful very soon. If instead of king e2, white tries to keep the bishop on the board, then black plays f6. This is a very common idea. So to put this pawns to f6 and e5, to take away some very important squares from white's pieces, that is d4 square, and also with that he can more easily develop his bishop on c8. As we said previously, his main challenge is to solve the problem of this passive light squared bishop. After short castle, e5, knight on d2, knight takes on d2, rook takes on d2, bishop e6. We now see the main idea of his play. a3, king f7, rook c1, and after rook from a to c8, we can see that he has solved his opening problems. So that was knight takes on e4. He can also try to give check bishop b5 immediately, but after king f8, this will just simply transpose to the position we already looked at. So the only left independent variation is for white to play knight b5, and actually need to be familiar with this position, since in this variation black needs to sacrifice a pawn with short castle, knight c7, and now after knight takes on g3, h takes g3, the h file is opened, so white will win this h6 pawn. But it turns out that after rook b8, rook takes on h6, bishop d7. Here, black has a sufficient compensation for the missing pawn, because first, white will have to lose some time with this knight on c7. Also, the second reason is that black's dark squared bishop may become very powerful in the future. And also the third and probably the most important reason black has sufficient composition is in this position is that this rook on h6 is not so well placed. It has already moved, so white will not be able to castle, so it will take him some time to once again place this to return this bishop to this rook to the center of the board. Here in this position, white can play several moves. Let's take a look at them. If he attacks the knight on c5, then black has rook from f to c8, knight takes on e6, and knight takes on b5 is a bad move, since after bishop takes b5, bishop takes b5, knight e4, this pawn b4 is hanging, as well as knight c3 fork. So after rook from f to c8, it is better to play knight takes on e6, bishop takes e6, b takes c5, rook takes c5, and now this pawn on a2 will be lost anyway, so white is the best for white to sacrifice it immediately with knight e4, and after bishop takes a2, here a very unclear position arises with counter chances for black. Further analysis of this position may be found in the PGN. So that was b4 analysis. White can also try knight e5, an active jump, but after rook from f to d8, knight takes on d7, rook takes on d7, rook takes on d7, knight takes on d7, knight b5, rook c8. Once again we see this theme of misplaced rook on h6. Black has a very concrete counterplay down the c file, and in this position he has sufficient compensation for the missing pawn. So that was knight e5 move, and the only one that's left is knight b5, but then again after rook from f to d8, knight from b to d4, king g7 attacking the rook, rook h1, knight a4. Once again we see that black is very quick with generating counterplay on the queen side. He will place his rook to c8, and he will definitely have sufficient compensation for the pawn. And I think that concludes all the variations in the bishop takes c4 variation here. So we go back to the position after c5, bishop takes c4. As we said, this is the main line. And now black takes on d4, asking white the question how he will recapture on d4. And the most ambitious try for white here is to take with the pawn, because taking with the pawn creates some kind of dynamical imbalance in this position, although white creates himself an isolated pawn, which may become very powerful but also very weak in endgames. He's playing for the he's hoping that he will develop sufficient activity to compensate for the defect of his isolated pawn. Now he has a very good control of the e5 square, so that is, and also he can at some point push the pawn on d5, but with good and solid play, black can neutralize this isolated pawn. Other tries for white are queen takes d4, but as you can probably suppose, this is not critical at all. Black gets a free tempo with knight c6, and gets a free an easy game. For example, after short castle, short castle, knight c6, queen f4. If he goes back to queen d8, queen d1, then after a6, bishop d3, d5, black has no problems at all. So after queen e4, once again we see this typical motive, knight h5, queen g4, bishop takes on h4, queen takes on h4, queen takes on h4, knight takes on h4, and after bishop d7, black has successfully solved all his opening problems. So that was queen d4. Knight takes on d4 is also not a critical move, as once again a fairly symmetrical position arises. The only issue black has in this position is his passive light squared bishop on c8, but once he resolves that problem, he can look forward with optimism. And that's precisely why he plays bishop d7. So this is a typical move. He prepares a knight to c6. And after short castle, knight c6, knight e3. White is trying to keep as many pieces as possible. As we said, it is harder for black to play since his position is slightly more cramped. After knight f3, black plays short castle, and here white can try two moves, rook c1 and bishop e2. After rook c1, knight h5. Once again, we see this very important motive, relieving the pressure. And after bishop takes e7, queen takes on e7, black has no problems in this position whatsoever. For example, after queen e2, rook from f to d8, a3, black can play rook a c1, c8, rook f d1, knight f6, h3, and after bishop e8, he has no problems in this position. So that is queen e2. White can also try bishop e2, but after more or less the same play, after rook from f to d8, a3, knight f6, queen c2, rook from a to c8, b4, bishop e8, queen b3, queen d6, rook from f to d1, queen b8. He has also solved all his problems, and this maneuver of transferring the queen to b8 is also relatively typical. On the next moves, he can think about exchanging a pair of knights with knight e5. So that was knight b3. There is an interesting variation after h3. Black can simply play a5, and after b5, he can even jump knight b4 using this pin on the c file. And after something like knight queen b2, knight from b to d5, knight a4, queen e4, he has a very good play. So that was bishop e2, and the last move is a3, but as you can probably see, all these variations are very similar, which means that the position is very statical and very close to the quality, no matter what plan or move white chooses to play. After a3, black simply continues with centralization with rook from f to d8, bishop e2, bishop e8, queen c2, rook from a to c8, b4, knight f6, and once again we see this position that we covered in the previous slide. So that was rook c1 move. Bishop e2 is also, as we said, an option. Here, black can use a nice tactical trick to play queen b6 immediately. So this is a very nice square for the black's queen. And the main point is that after bishop takes on f6, bishop takes f6, white cannot take on d7 with the queen, since after bishop takes c3, black is threatening to trap the queen on d7. Immediate rook from f to d8, rook from f to d8 allows white to escape with knight f4, so it's less precise. Bishop takes c3, and this forces white to play queen d3, otherwise he will lose the queen. And after queen takes b2, rook from a to b1, knight, queen takes on a2, using the fact that the bishop on e2 is under attack. And after rook takes b7, bishop f6, here black has great advantage since he's a pawn up. So that was bishop e2 move, and with that we conclude knight takes d4 variation, and we continue with e takes d4. As we said, the most ambitious try, because now at least the pawn structure is not so symmetrical, so it's more easier to create some active play. Black continues with knight c6, a very natural developing move. The knight is very well placed here, and one of the typical ideas here is to play knight b4 and then to blockade the pawn on d5. And generally the idea for black in these kind of positions where he's facing isolated central pawn is to try to neutralize white's initiative, to exchange many pieces as possible, as many pieces as possible, to get into the endgame. And with such a play, if he is successful, he can succeed in creating, making this pawn on d4 a great weakness and even be better in the endgame. So after short castle, here white has a couple of moves to play. Rook e1 is something that's the most usual move, so deploying the rook on the semi-open e-file. a3 is also an option, but here black continues with knight h5, bishop takes e7, knight e7. As we said, black's plan in general is to blockade, to keep the blockade on the d file, on the d5 square, sorry, prevent it to advance to d5, and gradually exchange pieces. White continues with knight e5, knight f6, rook e1, a6, bishop d3, and now b6, with the idea to comfortably develop the knight to b7, once again taking under control this very important d5 square. So basically everything in this, in a nutshell, everything in these positions can be analyzed through the perspective of the control to d5 square. So that was a3, and the last move we are going to, the last alternative we are going to consider in this position is rook c1, also a natural move. Here black decides to go with b6. Knight h5 with familiar ideas is also very also possible. So b6, and now after something like a3, bishop b7, bishop a2, rook c8, rook e1, knight e5, knight takes on d5. If white takes on e7, then after knight from c to e7, black has once again established a firm control of the d5 square. So after knight takes d5, bishop takes h4, knight f4. Here white has to be very careful not to end up being even worse, since black has a bishop pair, and in this position black can go for a tactical sequence, which is knight takes on d4, forcing queen takes d4, rook takes on c1, rook takes on c1, bishop takes f3, queen takes on d8, rook takes d8, g takes f3, and now we come to the main point of this tactical sequence, which is bishop g5, pinning the knight, and after rook c4, b5, rook e4, rook d2, white will likely have to return the piece, since if the pawn on b2 falls, this light squared bishop may become very problematic. So that was a3 move. If white decides to immediately push d5, this leads to a simplification, and after knight takes d5, white has to part with his light squared bishop, which is never a pleasant thing in these positions. Why so? Because if he takes on e7, this is a mistake. Black can simply take with the knight from d5, and he is a pawn up. So after d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes on d5, bishop b7. Here black has an excellent position because this bishop on b7 is very strong and is unopposed. So those were all alternatives to our main line, which is rook e1. And now, once again, we see this motif of knight h5, forcing an exchange of a dark squared bishop. Bishop takes e7, knight takes on e7. And now here knight e5 is a standard move, jumping with a knight to an active e5 square. Here d5 only leads to a simplification of the position and probably to a very soon draw. For example, e takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, knight jumps to f4, and after bishop e4 he can simply play bishop e6, as the capture of the pawn on b7 will likely lead to the fall of the pawn on b2. And after queen d4, queen takes on d4, knight takes on d4, bishop d5, a completely equal position. We have reached a completely equal position, and later this led to a draw in the game Abbasov against Gierianish, played in FIDE World Cup in 2023. Reader can find rest of the game in the PGN material. So that was d5. Queen b3 is another option, but after knight c6, this is a very nice move since it disrupts coordination of white's pieces. Black is threatening to play knight a5, eliminating this very important bishop on c4, as we said. And after bishop d3, black plays simply knight f6. Knight takes on d4 is also possible, but there is no need to allow white to develop any active counterplay, since this will just open the center for white's pieces, so it may be dangerous. Knight f6, on the contrary, is much more solid, and after rook from a to d1, black simply plays b6, developing the bishop to this diagonal. And after bishop b1, bishop b7, knight e4, knight takes on e4, bishop takes on e4, knight a5, queen d3, bishop takes on e4, queen takes on e4, knight c4, b3, knight d6, queen d3. I just wanted to go to the end of this sample line just to show you a very typical and instructive motive in this position, which is knight e8. So the idea is, of course, to go to f6 and then blockade the d4 pawn. And if black manages to do so, since both sides have exchanged a lot of pieces, he will end up in a better position with a stable advantage. So in this position, white has to play d5 to get rid of this weak pawn. And after e takes d5, queen takes d5, queen takes d5, rook takes on d5, knight f6, we have reached a completely equal position. So that was queen b3 move. So we go to the analysis of the knight e5 move. Black goes knight f6, a4, queen d3, bishop d7, rook from a to d1, bishop c6. We have another very important motive. One, if black is not able to develop his bishop to b7, he might consider placing it to d7 and c6. And he's not afraid of a knight taking on c6, because he can in fact recapture with the pawn. This will just increase his control of the d5 square, and it will also give him a semi-open b file. After bishop b3, rook c8, bishop c2, knight from e to d5. White is not able to create serious threats on this diagonal. And after a3, rook c7, this position is dynamically balanced. If instead of playing bishop c2, white takes on c6, then, as we said, black can continue with b takes c6, and after knight a4, knight from f to d5, knight c5, knight f5, a3, rook b8. Here, in this position, black's knights are nicely placed in the center, and he has enough counterplay to claim an equality. So that was queen d3. a4, black continues with a6, taking under control b5 square and preparing to play queen d6 or queen c7, depending on the situation. The idea is to free d8 square for his rook. Queen d3. If white continues with rook c1, bishop d7 is possible. Queen b3, rook b8, knight takes on d7, knight takes on d7, d5, knight takes on d5, bishop takes d5. If white wants to keep the bishop on the board with knight takes on d5, black has a strong intermezzo, which is b5, a takes b5, e takes d5, bishop takes d5, rook takes on b5, and now once he has opened the b file, he has equalized the position. So after d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, e takes d5, knight takes on d5, knight f6. White is slightly more active, but after knight e7 check, king h8, since the position is completely symmetrical, he should be able to neutralize white's initiative without any problem. So that is queen d3. So that was, rook c1. We are going to focus on queen d3. So this is the typical square for white's queen, freeing d1 square for the rook, and also preparing bishop b3, bishop c2 plan. Black continues with bishop d7, rook from a to d1, and rook c8. And in this position, it seems like the best for white is to play d5, leading to simplification, as after bishop a2, bishop c6, this is a good for white, so white decides to simplify the position with d5, but as we saw on numerous occasions, this just leads to a liquidation of the material and to a balanced position. After knight takes on d5, knight takes on d5, knight takes on d5, bishop takes on d5, e takes d5, knight takes on d7, queen takes on d7, queen takes on d5, queen takes on d5, rook takes on d5, and after rook from f to d8, we reached a completely equal rook endgame. And that will be all for this chapter. I hope you have enjoyed in analyzing this classical variation. and I will see you in the next chapter. Bye.